Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I have a confession to make. My name is Maddie, and I am a Nora Roberts junkie. And when I say a Nora Roberts junkie, I mean a Nora Roberts junkie. I have a lot of Nora Roberts books that I have read many times, and to be honest, I think she is a little underrated, I'm gonna say, just because she gets a lot of flack. But some of her books are wonderful. They're some of my favorite stories and favorite characters, and today I wanted to talk to you about my top 5 Nora Roberts books. The first book I want to talk about is Divine Evil. Now, this one is a little unorthodox. It follows a sculptor named Claire who moves back to her hometown after her father's suicide, and she has not been back to her hometown for years. And when she returns, she discovers through things in the house and everything like that that maybe her father did not commit suicide. Maybe something a little culty happened to him. And of course, it wouldn't be a Nora Roberts book without a love interest. And the love interest in this one is Cameron, who is now the town sheriff, who was secretly in love with her all through high school, and he helps her get to the bottom of what is happening in the town. Now, the reason I have put Divine Evil on my top 5 list is because of the twist at the end. I did not see it coming. I was shocked, and I think once you reread the book, knowing what is happening with the twist, if you reread the book when you know what the twist is, you can 100% see the build up to the reveal and all the things you missed your first read through. And I find those kind of books so satisfying to reread, so that is why this one made it into my top 5. I feel like it's not something you would expect from her. For number 4, I am putting Shelter in Place in that spot. This is a newer Nora Roberts book, and this one's, I find, really hard hitting. Back in high school, these two characters, Simone and Reed, were survivors of a mall shooting in their small town, and both of them lost some very close friends in the shooting, and it was a horrendous ordeal, and it follows them as they grow up and they're dealing with the shooting. And of course, it's being a Nora Roberts book, they eventually find each other and slowly get to know each other and fall in love, but there is a lot of mental health topics dealt in this book. There's a lot of how people heal and survive with PTSD, and turns kind of into a mystery and a thriller, which is really interesting to me. I was shocked that this was something that she came out with. When you think Nora Roberts, you think lovey-dovey romance books, but this one is not her usual style whatsoever. It was almost a contemporary, I'm gonna say. It felt more of a contemporary book to me than a romance book. For number 3, I'm gonna go with Blue Dahlia, the first book for the In the Garden trilogy. Really, I am kind of clumping all of the In the Garden trilogy into this, because just this entire story together is so wonderful to me. It's about women lifting each other up and going through life and figuring out how to deal with issues and troubles. So the first one, Blue Dahlia, deals with Stella, who has moved her little boys to Tennessee after her husband dies. She gets a job as a garden manager for this lovely lady named Rosalind, who built up the nursery in the backyard of her estate after her husband was killed when her 3 sons were very young. So Roz and Stella are very kind of in tune with each other. They understand what they're going through. And then later on in Blue Dahlia, Haley shows up, who is the main character in the last book in the series, Red Lily. Haley shows up as a young 23-year-old. Her father has just passed away, and she is pregnant. And she came from a very small town. She's not telling the father of the child that she is pregnant. So she's decided to go find her second cousin, Roz. And all 3 women end up living in Roz's estate to get to know each other, help each other out, and they really help each other grow. which I absolutely loved in the series, which is why I put it in my third spot. Of course, it doesn't hurt that throughout these 3 books there's kind of a ghost mystery going on and really, really strong male characters who I just love, especially Stella's love interest, Logan. He is so good with her kids, and it is just amazing to read about. So feel good reads, these 3. Highly recommend them. What? Go away, I'm almost done. My number 2 spot goes to Genuine Lies, and this one I feel like is today's equivalent of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, because it kind of has the same vibe. So Julia is hired by the biggest superstar in the world, Eve, to write her biography, and she takes her son, moves into Eve's guest house, and is slowly writing this biography while getting to know Eve, until a couple months in, after Julia is seen having a fight with Eve, Eve is murdered, and Julia becomes the prime suspect. So I actually, fully admittedly, have not finished reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but just the whole biography part and a superstar pulling an unknown person out of the woodwork to write her biography, it just feels very similar to me. So I kind of, when I hear about Evelyn Hugo, I automatically think of this book. But these characters are very enriching and well written, and they all have great character arcs and builds. Come on! They all have really good character arcs and builds, and the mystery is well developed as you go through the story, and it's a very entertaining read. And my number 1 Nora Roberts spot goes to Chesapeake Blue. Now this is the 4th book in a series. What's that series called? The Chesapeake Bay Saga. Duh. So this is the 4th book in the Chesapeake Bay Saga, and it follows Seth coming home after making it big in the art world. And a little behind this book, why I find it so empowering is that Seth was taken in by these 3 brothers who were all adopted, and their father died. And all of a sudden these 3 brothers who have their own separate lives, 2 of them don't even live in Chesapeake Bay anymore, come home to raise this young, unruly teenager named Seth. And it's so heartwarming. Each book follows the brothers and the relationship that each one is building with Seth as they understand their role as a parent and caregiver for this young person who none of them in their lives were interested in having children at that moment. So those 3 books are very heartwarming, and I was happy with the end of what I thought was that trilogy. And then is that so? And then a couple years later, Nora comes out with Chesapeake Blue, which Seth, as a grown-up, comes back to Chesapeake Bay and reunites with his family and starts to build his own life in the Chesapeake Bay. And you just see where all of this love and growing up and everything, where Seth ended up and how he grew up after this really difficult situation that he started life in. And I think Seth is my favorite character that Nora Roberts has written to date, that I've read, and it's very, very satisfying. I feel like this was the sequel I didn't know I needed. Now that I know it exists and after I read it, imagine these books not ending this way, just ending on the 3rd book. And the reason it's my number 1 spot is because it has the most heartwarming and loving characters who the character arc you watch them go through in these 3 books to get to this 4th book is just so amazing and emotional and really, really well written. I cried the first time I read them, and this has to be my favorite. So that's it. That's all for me today, I'm going to take my gin and tonic, my number one Nora Roberts book, and these ridiculous dogs, and call it a night. Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye!